Everyone's us, and this is the patch 13.14 notes preview. This is not the official rundown, so we'll see what ends up actually making it to live. This is going to be on the FlyQuest YouTube channel. Normally the previews are on my channel, but for this week it is going to be on the FlyQuest channel. I've been told, apparently by Riot, or well, I was told by someone that talked to Riot, that this is the playoffs patch. And obviously that is a little bit surprising because LEC apparently is supposed to be playing on 13.12 if you guys saw the news from yesterday on Twitter. So I don't totally understand what is going on and what is happening with 13.12, 13.14, etc. Is 13.13 just being skipped? Okay. Aatrox. Q-base damage is going to be 10 to 90 to 10 to 70. Q total AD ratio is going to be 60 to 80%. And now 60 to 100%. All right, so the flat damage is going down. However, the total AD is going up. So once Aatrox ends up, once Aatrox just starts getting a lot of items, 101 total AD is a buff. So once he gets his first item, etc., has a couple of base levels in him, this is going to be really massive. Now, the other thing about this is I did inquire about having Aatrox be able to have his Q apply on hits. Now, one thing that people might not remember from years ago, and this is going back into Season 10, people might remember that me and Max were trying to push Trinity Force Aatrox. And Trinity Force is in an amazing spot right now, and Sterix is in an amazing spot right now. And now his Q is just getting an absolute steroid to it. So with Trinity Force and Sterix being so amazing right now, and this getting such a large buff, that does sort of point some things towards me. Now, some people might think, like, why would you want to go Trinity Force on Aatrox over Gore Drinker, etc.? Well, Trinity Force has a unique passive that is not shared with Black Cleaver. They used to, once upon a time, share the Rage passive. They no longer share the Rage passive. Trinity Force has Threefold Strike, and then Black Cleaver just has, I don't know if Black Cleaver is still called Rage, obviously it has the Carve passive, etc. Both of them grant unique movement speed. And so because of that, you get an absolute steroid there. You also get a lot of ability haste. What a lot of the ability haste ends up doing for Aatrox inside of his kit is he's actually able to just not cast his third Q, which means that he can weave in a lot of auto attacks, and he can just play with E and Q1 and Q2, which creates a lot of mix-ups for him. And then with the increased movement speed, it's a lot harder to run away from him, and with the increased ability haste, he's getting more E's, and then obviously more W's, etc. So there's all that good jazz. And then obviously the synergy with Sterix does not really need to be talked about, and then you can end up rounding everything out with Stoneplate as the final item, if that's the way that you would want to go. Q minion damage 55% to 55 to 70% at levels 1, 6, 11, and 16. So that obviously scales with level. This is totally fine. So Aatrox is actually just getting a lot of love right now. Diana, W shield strength 40 to 100 plus 25% AP, 9% bonus HP to 45 to 105. This is negligible. 30% AP plus 9% bonus HP. So the thing about Diana is she's still one of the she still wants to build Death Cap, and she still wants to build Nashers. Now the thing about her in jungle is Nashers ended up getting buffed, but it got nerfed kind of in a way for jungle in that you need 2 more camps now in order to secure the Nashers. So there's that whole thing going on. The thing about Diana is, why would you play Diana over so many other champions outside of just playing her with Yasuo? The other thing about this is just because of the W shield strength increase, it doesn't really even matter because sometimes her shield doesn't even end up getting chewed through, so it doesn't actually amount to anything. W damage per orb, 18 to 66 plus 15% AP to 18 to 66 plus 18% AP, so 3% AP. These are extremely negligible amounts just being increased. EAP ratio 50 to 130, so the base is not being increased, but it's going up by 10%. Diana, if she's a jungler, she's typically only going to be getting like 2 items inside of the game, so you're talking about maybe capping off around 300 to 400 ability power in a game, which means that this is getting, 30, 40 damage. This is a completely negligible amount. It does nothing to transform her early game. It's super useless. Lissandra. Passive no longer stops at final frames before detonation. That's a nice buff. Passive follows enemies into brush if they were being chased. Good. Passive thralls now revealed to enemies. Q now slows all enemies hit rather than just the first. That's something that actually not even a lot of Lissandra mains knew about. The Ice Shard missile cast from position post-cast rather than pre-cast. Okay. Our heal amount 90 to 190 plus 25% AP increased by 0 to 100% based on missing health to 100 to 200 plus 55% AP. So actually it's getting 30% AP added. Now Lissandra, again, not a champion that gets gets a lot of ability power. She ends up getting, she gets Everfrost, and then after Everfrost, she typically goes Zanya's, and then after that, sometimes she'll get Void Staff so that she's still able to deal damage, because Lissandra, obviously, being a utility mage inside of mid lane, sometimes does just pair with other magic damage champions, in which case she needs to get Void Staff, and Void Staff obviously does not have the highest of AP ratios compared to other items. Getting Death Cap on Lissandra can be a little bit painful, especially if you do end up going Zanya's Hourglass as your second item, then your build is just going to be stunted as you're trying to go into Death Cap. So it is really nice that she's getting a lot more heal. It does create for some more interesting things on her engage, but other than that, I mean, I think these are just like quality. I mean, they're changes, sure, but it doesn't matter. Shaco, AD, Q, cool. Q bonus damage 25 to 65 plus 50% bonus AD to 25 to 65 plus 60% bonus AD. Backstab bonus crit 40% to 55%. R bug fix properly propagates Prowler's Claw passive to clone. That's very nice. Q, okay, so that was it for Shaco. Very, very negligible at the end of the day. Okay. Shaco, Q ratio, okay. 20 to 80% total AD to 20 to 100% total AD new. Next two attacks have 40 to 60% increased attack speed. Cooldown 7 to 5 to, what is that? To 8, okay. To 8 to 6. Okay, so basically the damage all comes out faster. The damage all comes out faster, and it deals more damage. In exchange, you have 1 more second added to the Q. I think that's a fine buff. E-mark damage on hit, 3% target HP to 3% target HP plus 1% per 100 bonus AD. Now, Shyvana is typically, she will build a Blade of the Ruin King. So she'll build like maybe a Blade of the Ruin King, but she's never going full AD. So this is actually just going to amount to 0.5% of the target's HP. So super negligible, doesn't really matter a whole lot. Volibear, passive AP ratio 40 to 50%. W missing HP heal 8 to 16 to 8 to 20. That's really big for top lane Volibear. The passive AP ratio is not the end of the world. You're talking about 10% on what is typically just a Doran's ring, so you're talking about 1.5 more damage, quite literally. Sometimes they'll end up getting a Dark Seal. Now, for the other Volibear builds, which are the AP split push glass cannon, this is a really big change, but it's still not going to be, it's not going to matter. Unfortunately, Electric Bear is just something that we do dread returning to pro play. Xerath, mana's going to be down by 59, passive cooldown 12 to 16, passive CD reduced by 2 seconds on unit kill, and procs on structures now, which is a very big buff. R recast 3 to 5 to 4 to 6, just a flat buff there. R damage 200 to 300 plus 45% AP to 180 to 280 plus 40% AP. So the AP is actually down, and the base damage is down, but if you hit all of them, okay, our bonus damage per champion hit 20, 25, 30. Oh no, actually it's just there. Okay, so they actually just give it back as long as you hit the champ. Okay, cool. So Xerath is just getting some love there, and I think that that is really good. This is obviously a nerf to support Xerath. Support Xerath does get a nerf by this. It's not the end of the world, because, I mean, on unit kill, it just feels really bad, because Xerath is always going to go Spell Thieves. So it is just a buff to mid lane Xerath. Zyra, plant damage taken from AoE spells is going to go from 4 to 3. Plant damage taken from ranged autos is going to go from 4 to 5. Plant damage to monsters 150% to non-epic monsters to 40 to 100 bonus magic damage scaling with level 2 all monsters. Very nice. W seeds on first rank up 1 to 2. E no longer locks out flash during the cast. That is a very nice change as well. R-cast paradigm, wall to position. Cast at max range. Missile damage update cadence for second to 16. Okay. All really, really good Zyra changes. Zyra in Season 9, prior to Season 10, was really interesting because this was back when Karthus was basically king of the jungle, and Syndra was able to actually match Karthus' speed, and Syndra was very powerful. You guys know Selfmade was playing a lot of Syndra in EUS solo queue, but it didn't end up actually coming out on stage. Actually, it was banned against Fnatic, I do believe, in one of the games, because they thought that maybe Selfmade would play it. Now, in addition to Syndra and Karthus, there was also Zyra and Brand, and I am a super firm believer that Brand and Zyra were both actually high-tier junglers at that point in time, but then the itemization change came out, the change to the jungle item, etc., and that ended up hurting them, in addition to, like, Brand ended up getting nerfed as well, and Syndra ended up getting changed and everything like that, and they couldn't actually clear the way they did before. Zyra's really interesting in the way that she works inside of the jungle with her plants and everything. She can actually kill camps on the move, which is a very rare thing that Karthus is still able to achieve. Once he hits a certain amount of ability power, he can actually still, for the most part, kill camps on the move. But this is something that normally doesn't happen happen anymore because of the patience changes. Zyra's pretty unique in the fact that she can actually still do this with her plants. So it's going to be very interesting to see Zyra jungle if that does end up happening. Hecarim W bonus resistances 15 to 35, 10 to 30. It's sort of whatever. I haven't really seen Hecarim in solo queue, and we're not really seeing him in competitive. This is a very random nerf. Jax E cooldown 14 to 18 to 15 to 9. Our mana cost 50 to 100. So they are making it harder for Jax all around. And he is a champion that sometimes is just coming out blind. And even in, counter matchups and stuff, Jax is just having a good time. Okay, Karthus. Q damage 45 to 115, doubled when isolated, to 43 to 115, doubled when isolated. So the main thing that we do want to look at is rank 3, and you do kind of want to look at rank 2 as well. These are very negligible amounts that are missing from Karthus's clear. Karthus is still, to my knowledge, the 3rd fastest clearer in the game right now, just behind Ivern and Fiddlesticks, and his clear is obscenely quick, so this really does not matter. Now, rank 3, you're only missing 1 damage, and then you end up getting everything back by rank 5, because Karthus does max Q first. Monster modification, 95% to 100%. So, in his clear, actually, my bad, Karthus is not nerfed in the clear, it's just that his Qs are nerfed on early ganks by a very extremely negligible amount that does literally nothing. Now, in exchange to buffing Karthus, because this is just actually a buff, his clear speed is going to increase, actually, on follow-up clears. So, his clear speed is going to become a lot better. Now, a way that they're nerfing him is the E mana refund, 15 to 55 to 10 to 50. This is a nerf for bot lane Karthus, and it is a nerf to mid lane Karthus, and it's a nerf for jungle Karthuses that cannot clear to save their lives. Okay. Kindred. Health is going to go up by 30. Armor is going to go down by 3. Q cooldown is going to go from 8 to 9. This really doesn't matter because she builds Trinity Force and Black Cleaver. If you guys have been watching Griefin stream, then, the ability haste is absolutely obscene. It is a problem in the earlier stages of the game. Q base damage 50 to 150 to 40 to 140. Okay, those are definitely nerfs. Griefin's going to be a little bit sad, I think, when he reads that, but Kindred is still going to be sort of king of forest in the jungle. Milio, passive burn damage 25 to 80 to 15 to 50. That is massive. Okay, that is really big. And this is just further cementing the fact that Milio really should only ever be a counter pick. The funny thing is, though, is that he's getting blind picked in all the regions, and then people aren't counter picking him and drafting against him. So then they end up crying that Milio is broken. E move speed 15 to 25% to 12 to 20%. Not really the end of the world in a lot of cases, but it is definitely a noticeable nerf. Rell, movement speed, or armor, 39 to 36, passive steal, 3% to 2%, doesn't matter. Rengar, Q crit conversion, 95% to 75%, base health region, 7 to 6. So the Rengar stuff is really interesting, obviously, because Rengar is in a good spot. He is good in top lane in addition to jungle, but we're not actually getting to see top lane Rengar or anything like that. We're not seeing jungle Rengar with mid lane Ivern or anything. Rek'sai, E damage 55 to 75 plus 85% bonus AD to 5 to 25 plus 70% total AD. So I imagine that this ends up being a buff in if you go like glass cannon. I would imagine. Yeah, I would imagine that it's a buff if you end up going total glass cannon. 70% total AD is also kind of weird. So I wonder what it is at like rank 1. W damage 55 to 155 to 50 to 110. Okay. Just minor Rek'sai things. Naafiri is getting released. And, I've been playing her a lot on PvE. I've even played her in 2v2v2. It's very interesting. She's a monster at 5 and 6 items because it's just too much damage for someone to be able to get away from at 5 and 6 items, but the same can be true for a lot of assassins. The other problem that Naafiri ends up having is it's like, why would you end up playing Naafiri when Zed and Talon exist? It's very, very weird, but maybe it's just because I'm playing her on such high ping. We're playing her anywhere from like 140 to 200 ping, depending on, how the internet is doing that day and connecting to the Riot server and stuff, so yeah. Yorick, system buffs, okay, Axiom Arc, alt refund, 20%, total to 5% plus 40% lethality. This is obviously really good for all of the pure lethality stacking champions. It is a buff. Prowler's Claw, lethality 15 to 18. This is nice, because Prowler's Claw did end up getting hit when the active was gone. Rondo and Zoman, crit reduction, 20% to 25%. This is a nice change. Spear of Sojin, 3400 to 3300, and then 300 to 350 HP. Very nice buffs for Spear of Sojin. Spirit Visage is getting another 10 magic resistance. The item is already really broken, especially with double enchanter and stuff, and with Ivern being inside of the jungle, it is a very nice item. Steric's Gauge, for some reason, despite being one of the most disgusting items in the entire game right now, is getting buffed for reasons unknown, man. That makes no sense whatsoever. It's going down by 1 minion wave worth of gold, at least not a cannon, and the HP is going up by 50, and that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Gale Force, 90 to 120 seconds, good. Blue buff ability haste 10 to 5 to 20 at levels 1, 6, 11, and 16, so it actually, I would say the blue is getting buffed. Ghost, duration 10 to 14 seconds, duration extension on takedown removed. That's totally fine. This means that you can actually, cast it a little bit earlier. You run into it. The duration extension is very, very rare that it ends up actually mattering. Infinity Edge, attack damage 70 to 65. Crit damage modifier is, however, going to be up by 10%, which is really good for crit ADCs. Red buff burn over 3 seconds, 10 to 78. Linear scaling to 10, levels 1 to 5, and then plus 5 per level 75 at level 18. So red is slightly nerfed. Melee slow, 10 to 20%, and then, melee slow, 10 to 20%, levels 1, 6, 11, to 5, 10, 15, 20%. Okay, so it's just getting hard nerfed, okay. And then Static Shiv, electroshock damage 250 to 450 to 250 to 350, 25 levels starting at level 7, which is typically around the time that you end up completing it. If you are rushing it, actually you complete it shortly thereafter. If you are rushing it, Trinity Force attack speed 35% to 33%, so it does lose 2% attack speed. Threefold Strike, AD 4%, 5 stacks to 6%, 3 stacks, so you end up losing 2%. This is a buff for the first 10 attacks, which in most cases is all that you really care about with Trinity Force. So I think with all of this, and when you consider Aatrox and stuff like that, these are really nice changes. So all in all, I think that it is a very interesting patch for certain itemization. I think that we do get some stuff out of this. Potentially, we get Aatrox's return, we get Zyra ends up coming back, and then we get a lot of buffs to things that people are somewhat building but aren't building as much as they should, and that is going to be it for the 13-14 preview. We'll see what ends up making the cut, obviously, next week, and if any changes end up happening in the official patch notes, but that is going to be all for this.